Washington football. Woo!
One more time.
I got you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle. My co-hosts are not here with me yet, Hall and Reed, but they will be very, very soon. The Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. The title of tonight's episode is The Mock Battle. So we thought we need some good soldiers in here, and so we brought in Mr. Anthony Armstrong, the deep threat, former Washington Redskin wide receiver. How are you doing on this Thursday evening, sir? Or Wednesday?
Man, I'm good. It is Wednesday. My dates were all off too. But I'm good, man. I'm riding high, putting together some good puzzles and just figuring out things and getting some deals closed over here. It's been a good day.
It
How
has
about
been.
yourself?
It's been good, man. And I heard the news that Washington hired Gardy to be the senior VP of football initiatives. I want to get your kind of opinion on that. What do you think this kind of signifies for Washington?
Man, it's still something that I kind of have to dig into, kind of understand what it is. It just sounds like they're almost making jobs for just about anything, and not in a bad way.
No, I know what you're
Like,
saying.
you know what I'm saying? Instead of saying, "Hey, coach, focus on approving this," we'll have somebody that's going to handle that, right? Like, it just seems like it kind of streamlines things. You get some delegation out there. I think he came from the league office, didn't he? So.
Yeah, he's leaving New York to come here, and he was in charge of the rules, and so you're getting somebody from the NFL on your team to basically
Oh.
tell you what the parameters are on the field and off the field in terms of what you can do and what you can't do. And everyone knows that, Anthony, the league loves to screw with Washington.
Yeah, that is true. And when you think about back in the Super Bowl,
Right.
there was a little mess going around afterwards where San Francisco didn't know the overtime rules.
Yeah.
They didn't know that Kansas City was going to get the ball back. So, could there be a chance to have a rules meeting at the beginning of the year and often throughout? Probably so. Now that you have somebody who's well versed in that area.
Definitely adult hires. One thing I took
Yeah,
away from it. And
yeah.
speaking of adult hires, wide receivers in this draft. You a wide receiver yourself. Are there some guys in this draft class that have really caught your eye that you think that would be really good additions to this football team? Obviously, everyone would say Marvin Harrison, but just
Sure.
realistically.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to have Maserati Marv show up down there in DC, but then you're gonna probably have to see somebody else leave if you bring that guy in there. It's
Right.
that much firepower. But I do think that there are serviceable players, and I use that term loosely, not to say that they're just one trick ponies or not, but there are enough receivers throughout this draft that you don't have to reach up for one. But they have specific skill sets that I think that this receiving core in this offense could use. Like size is one thing. With your biggest receiver being about 6'2", I think it's Tinsley might be about 6'2",
Mm-hmm.
uh, but he doesn't have that much experience. So it's kind of hard to say you want to lean on him, especially when you think about the red zone woes that happened last year. You want to have some bigger bodies to get the ball to. Even though Jahan and Terry can be active down there, it's still helpful to have a 6'3", 6'4" that you can look to when times get tough. So I'm looking for size. One guy I got my eye on is Xavier Legette out of South Carolina. I think the size, speed, capabilities, and that's something that's special. You see how DK Metcalf is utilized. You saw how AJ Brown was utilized. I mean, when you're 6'3" and 220 and you run a 4'3", we can find something for you to do. He can
Right.
find something for you to do, right? He can take the top off, plus he can get active and block. Probably block a linebacker being that big. So that looks like somebody I'd be paying attention to. Keon Coleman out of Florida State's a big guy. The only I say downside is just that he's a 4 or 5 guy. What up, Paul? He's a 4 or 5
That's good.
guy, and I think that if you can add size and speed in one player, I'd rather go that route rather than a bigger body that maybe
Gotcha.
doesn't create a lot of separation,
Like
right?
Johnny Wilson, for example, from Florida State. But let me ask you this, Anthony. When you watch if you watch film on a rookie, has there ever been somebody that like reminds you of you? Like, what are some of those traits that you kind of took as a player to say, I know this translates well to the NFL? Not saying in a narcissistic way, but just like, is there any player you've ever watched to say like he plays a lot like I did?
Man, man, I'm trying to think of who was one of those. I mean, I honestly I look in Dallas. We used to be in
Jacoby
Dallas.
Jones, I would say.
Well, he dances a little bit different than I do.
I got you.
Jacoby was a hell of a returner. Michael Gallup is a guy that kind of comes to mind,
Okay.
and I know that may be sour on some fans, but I mean, deep threat guy. He'll go up for the ball. I think after his injury, he wasn't the same player. That's what I think his downfall was. Man, is whenever you start to see, because I feel like I can run all the routes. You know what I mean? So I feel like Jahan, but like Jahan's a better route runner than I ever was. So when the things that translate uncoachables are just flat out speed, right? Flat out speed and being able to affect the defense that way. But you just don't want to get pigeonholed into being just the deep threat, just the
Right.
go ball guy. Uh,
Diami's dealing with that, right?
yeah, right. And you have to earn that trust to get those other reps. And I think he was starting to do that last year, but it's tough when you're always down and frankly, EB's play calling really wasn't working that well for you
Hmm.
for us last year.
You could have been honest with this, Anthony. You could have said Justin Jefferson, and we would have agreed with you. Nobody would have argued with you. But that being said,
Oh
you
man.
you being a former wide receiver, looking at these quarterbacks is kind of different. I would imagine in your eyes than a normal, typical fan out there. These quarterbacks, is there a different way that you're looking at it, and who's your favorite right now at number two?
My favorite now at number two is Daniels, is
Okay,
Jayden Daniels. I've gotten to the point where I'm not gonna much argue with what the selection is. I think that with Jayden, you've had the success in college. He's won the Heisman. He's put up the statistics. People try to slander him about saying, "Oh, he's not Lamar Jackson," but Lamar is a very special person.
right.
I think the only person that was like that, the comparison to Lamar, is Michael Vick, right? So nobody expects Jayden to be Lamar Jackson. But he's able to throw the ball in tight places. He makes good decisions with the football. Those are good things. You don't have somebody that's just a gunslinger. Drake Maye, maybe you feel like he has more of a ceiling. Go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna ask you to branch off of that. Which quarterback do you think, in your honest opinion, is the most wide receiver friendly?
Wide receiver friendly. Um, I would have to probably pick McCarthy or Daniels,
Okay.
because of the production that they've had, and McCarthy seems like he's somebody that's going to run the system as it is. Um, I think back to whenever it was 2012 and you had Kirk and Robert. Robert had insane athleticism, crazy arm, but Kirk had the touch and the consistency, and you knew that the ball was going to show up on time in a catchable spot. Not that Robert couldn't do it, but it was just a little bit more of a work in progress. Kirk was a more polished quarterback coming out, so that's how I think the difference is in the way that Jayden is taking his game from Arizona State to LSU. I think he'd be more receiver friendly. I mean, limited interceptions, good accuracy, that's big. And when you catch the ball in space, I can go do something with it. Not having to worry about, is this ball going to sail over my head? Is it going to be accurate or not? Give me Jayden, and second would probably be JJ McCarthy.
I'm with you. Obviously, the numbers support Jayden Daniels here. Sorry, Hall. If you want to ask a couple questions to Anthony, since I hogged a lot of his time.
No, it's all good. Since we're talking about the offense, what do you think going forward for a rookie quarterback and for this offense in general is more important? A receiver that can give you like the explosive plays over the top or something like that, or a tight end that can kind of be that middle of the field young quarterback's best friend?
One thing begets the other, right? Being able to, if you have that deep threat that pushes the ball downfield, that's going to make things easier for you because generally it's going to open things up, right? It's going to make the secondary respected. Having that tight end that you can go to all the time, I mean, I don't want that to be your crutch. I want you to know you can get there. And I think a lot of times if we're trying to think about Travis Kelce, I don't know if we necessarily need to have your tight end to get that much action in this offense, right? You know what I mean? So give me somebody that can push the ball downfield, who's going to make it easier to get the ball to the rest of the targets. Being able to get the ball to a tight end whenever nobody's open,
Mm.
that sets you up for third and short. And then, we're in a tough spot. How do we handle those things? So give me the deep threat all the time.
My man, Anthony, I only have a couple more questions for you, sir. But my first one being a lot of people, a lot of fan bases going crazy over the 30 visits, and how they had 4 of the quarterbacks, J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix, Drake Maye, and I think Jayden Daniels all at once coming in for 30 visits. What do you think of that move by Washington? Obviously, I love it, and it's a very competitive atmosphere, but it's good to see how guys gel and work with one another.
I think that it's definitely different. I was reading an article about it, and it is different as to how it's done, but you're going to get more of what this player is really like in the locker room, right? I'm not saying one person may kind of stand out as a leader amongst these other quarterbacks. How he handles the 26 other players that are around, or however many came through in that group. Is there a jealousy type of thing? Is there somebody that's, connects with a lot of different people? He's a people person. He seems to have led a group. I think you're going to see that type of dynamic from this type of style, just a whole group visit. Because hey, you're going to have your one-on-one time, but all in all, the player be in in their hotel room, and then they'd be at meetings with you all day, and then they go right back to their room. So, giving the players a chance to interact with their peers, and then there's no competition. Hell, chances are they know who they want to pick, but it's good to see. Hey, maybe Michael Penix comes in there and really blows us away, and everybody's drawn to him, and they feel like going that direction. So, to me, it sounds like this is a prepared front office. They're making decisions that are going to be based off of sound information and not hoping that the guy shows up and meshes with everybody. He's already shown that he can, lead a group of men.
And what comes to mind is to why they did this. It's good to be able to see what guys do in a competitive atmosphere, because obviously, yeah, you could have guys vying for your job, but what do you think the quarterbacks behind you are doing? How do you exist in that competitive environment? And on top of that, because it brings to mind Carson Wentz and what happened with Marcus Mariota last year when they brought in Desmond Ritter, he kind of, or 2 years ago, where he dipped out on him. Then Carson Wentz kind of throwing a hissy fit with the drafting of Jalen Hurts. You got to be able to find out that guy, if he has that sort of issue or not. And I think this is a really good way to be able to figure that out. But now, Anthony, my next question for you: positions that Washington cannot walk away from in the top 100. So with their first 6 picks, what are some positions they cannot go without?
You need to, obviously, quarterback. You're going to get that. You got to get a tackle. I feel like you got to get a tight end. I think there's one there. DB is one. I feel like receiver on that tail end of it would be nice to see. Wait till day 3 on that, because there's a lot of depth. And then possibly linebacker, right?
Okay.
Possibly linebacker. But if you don't go linebacker or edge in those, then maybe you double up with two of the best linemen that you can get, right? Maybe you drop a receiver, get 2 linemen, still get the linebacker. So they got a lot of options, and there's a lot of good players that they can pick up there. So they better leave with those. And when you look at the top 30 list, that's who's on there: quarterbacks, tight ends, DBs. This is their shopping list, and we're gonna pick from y'all in their top 6.
I'm totally with it. Now, Anthony, last question I have for you, sir. When we walk away after this draft class, what do you want? What do you think the team identity is going to be?
Man, I think the identity is on defense. You're going to have players that can get to the football and disrupt what goes on with the offense, right? Adrian Cooper is a guy that comes to mind down there in A&M, and these DBs that they're bringing in for their top 30s, they aren't the biggest names, but I'm trusting in the fact that Dan Quinn was one of the architects of the Legion of Boom. That defense had one first rounder, and that was Earl Thomas. Everybody else was 5th and 6th and undrafted. So he has a type of player that he's looking for, right? Seeing how Deron Bland had success. He sees that in these DBs that he's bringing in. So you're going to have a feisty defense, and those players are going to come in to compete right away. And I think on offense, it's just getting those last supporting pieces, man. There should be some explosiveness, some firepower, and a lot of excitement coming to the city.
I can't thank you enough, Anthony. Go and enjoy this Wednesday evening, sir. Enjoy your weekend and the week until the draft. So close, but yet so far, brother. Thank you.
Yes,
can't
sir.
Thank you
right
enough.
around the corner. We'll see y'all.
All right, have a good one. All right, everybody, we just spoke with the man, Mr. Anthony Armstrong. Always appreciate him coming on here this time. Hall, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, man.
But now we are joined by our next guest, like we just talked about with Anthony. Today is we're about a week away from the draft, exactly a week if you're listening to this on Thursday. But now we are joined by our next guest, Mr. Ian Cummings, Mr. IC Draft on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm doing even better now that we're a week away. Like you said, it's almost there, the end of the tunnel for sure. But it's kind of bittersweet too, because we've had so much fun going through mock drafts and exploring different outcomes, right? That's all over in a week. So we got one more week to do the mock drafts and kind of talk about that. But it's exciting, and especially for Washington, having all the picks they do. So I'm excited, happy to be here with you again.
You can be honest with us, Ian. You're looking forward to vacation the day after the draft. I know how
It's,
it goes.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. It'll be nice. It'll be nice for sure.
When especially for Washington fans with all the exhaustive quarterback talk. But the quarterback is going to need wide receivers, and Washington lost Curtis Samuel this offseason going to the Buffalo Bills. So Ian, in your opinion, you know Washington very well. But like in relative speaking, with wide receiver, what are some guys that could kind of fit in adding some production where Curtis Samuel's leaving, and where in the draft would those guys be?
Yeah, I think somewhere on day two is what I would say. With the day two capital you have, I think, the top of round two would be a little rich, I think. But if a guy like Jalen Polk is there for Washington, for example,
Okay.
the things that I'm looking for is alignment versatility, right? Curtis Samuel was very versatile and he was more of a, explosive, agile rack guy, separator too. I think, you have varying molds in this class, but varying ranges where they could be on the board too. I think if you pick one with 36 or 40, Jalen Polk would be an option. Roman Wilson from Michigan would be an option. Ricky Pearsall could be one as well. And you might want to trade back from 40 and get some more capital to get guys like that. But, I look at those types of guys who are alignment versatile, who have strong hands, good body control, good explosiveness too, and they're different route runners with their profiles. Well, I was gonna say Julian Polk is more of that, guy who can run crossers and just win with his frame. Roman Wilson is more like Chris Olave, who can use his speed and bend to sear through zones. Ricky Pearsall is more of that one-on-one separator where you can win with, sharp redirections, right? But those few stand out to me. Later on in day two, Jalen McMillan from Washington would be one, that speed threat with that route running ability, good hands as well. And then on day three, if you get guys like Jamari Thrash from Louisville, I think he'd be a good one too. Very good route runner, again, very flexible, very fluid, but a good rack threat too with that wiry strength to his frame. Those are kind of the molds that stand out to me. Obviously, there's a lot of options in this class, but I think those names kind of lead the way.
And Ian, with scouts, I'm not saying that you like know all the scouts or anything, but what do you think the biggest concerns are with scouts and like a wide receiver like Lad McConkey, for instance?
I think it would just be the size, probably the
Okay.
biggest thing, right? And that's not a bad thing. Like if you have a scheme that can insulate him, right? Because again, his selling point, and I think for Washington he'd be a great fit too. My only concern is that he might not be there at 36, right?
Right.
So that's the tough part, valuing these guys. I think the size is definitely a limiting factor, right? He's not a guy who I think has elite vertical range or tracking ability because of that. I think guys who can get inside his frame might be able to obstruct his process. But over the middle of the field, the strong hands, the route running ability within that range, he's got that for sure. And he can, be weaponized as a rack threat on drags and mesh routes too. So the biggest thing is the size, just understanding the profile. But if you have a spread offense that can get those guys into space and use them in different ways, like Washington should have with Cliff Kingsbury, I think you can mitigate some of those concerns.
Yeah, and speaking of Cliff Kingsbury, obviously Washington at number two. We're looking for a new signal caller and at quarter and run the offense.
Yeah.
And I've been of the mindset the whole time that I want them to draft Jayden Daniels, but I think they're going to draft Drake Maye. I know all the betting like sites and all that have Jayden Daniels number two, like heavy favorite right now. But if you were the GM picking for Washington right now,
I already know the answer.
I know the answer too, but are you going Drake Maye or Jayden Daniels?
I would go Drake May, and I know it's not a surprise, but I can understand the rationale behind Jayden Daniels. I want to preface with saying that because
Right.
there's a likely outcome where I say this and then I take Jayden Daniels, and yes, you can be excited about Jayden Daniels too. I think both have merit. I think Jayden Daniels would be a very good scheme fit for Cliff Kingsbury as well. With those spread looks, I think
Yep.
at LSU he had a lot of experience with that, and that goes twofold. It helps him to test defenses as a deep passer with that pinpoint accuracy, that touch, but then at the same time too as a running threat, right? He's got the speed, he's got the agility. We haven't really seen an athlete like him, right? I know the Robert Griffin the third comp has been a popular one, but I actually think he's more free flowing and fluid on the lateral plane than Griffin was. He's a little bit leaner, right? Griffin had a stronger frame, but I do think Jayden Daniels has rare creation capacity. You don't see it often, right? But with Drake May, and I tweeted this a few weeks ago, I think, but with Drake Maye and Jayden Daniels, it comes down to, the balance of stressing defenses as a runner and stressing defenses as a passer, right? And I do think Jayden Daniels stresses defenses as a passer, right? It's not like one does and one doesn't, right?
Right.
It's all about the spectrum, the mix, right? What are you looking for? And Drake Maye, to me, has the potential to stress defenses much more as a passer, just with his arm talent and his anticipation ability. I think those are things that, even with the mechanical volatility, you'll see him anticipate windows over the middle of the field on crossers and digs, right? You'll see him, use his shoulder alignment to displace DBs and open windows for himself and then capitalize with that arm talent, right? He can throw off platform. I think that's another area where he has Jayden Daniels beat. Jayden Daniels is not the most natural off platform thrower, right? Drake Maye has the arm elasticity to throw from any platform, rolling left, rolling right, fading back even, and he can still generate that hip torque as well. So there's just too much upside for me to pass up on with Drake Maye. And then he has a lot of the bedrock mental traits that I want, right? I think a lot of the things that he needs to improve on as a young QB, some mechanical incongruence with his footwork and his base width, and then also lapses in decision making as a young QB in the heat of the moment, right? I think you can fix those more easily than processing ability over the middle of the field, window identification, leverage IQ. And I think he's very good at all of those things for such a young QB. He can manage protections at the line as well. He's got the problem solving ability off script that I like to see from a young QB. So I'm willing to take the lumps early on with those mechanical inconsistencies because I see probably the best physical talent in the class who also has that processing anticipation. And he's shown that he can control his mechanics to generate really impressive situational precision. It's hot and cold, but that capacity is there. So I can see the merit for both, but Drake Maye to me is more worth the investment, I would say.
Yeah, and I heard early on the draft cycle, Ian, that LSU's offensive coordinator, they asked Jayden to run after his first or second read if it was covered based on the offensive line that they had. But in my opinion, at this point, wouldn't you say that's more of a detriment to his possible prediction or projection down the road?
I would, yeah. I think for him, and we did see that often. I think it was twofold for him. I think there were times where, he was a little too poised and stood in a little too long, right? But
Mm.
it's a double-edged sword, right? It swings back and forth past that pendulum. And I think for him, at the NFL level, there are times where you are going to have to stand tall and stand in the pocket and step forward, right? And step into the scrum, and it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be claustrophobic, but it's going to help you get the most out of the play, right? There are times when he will run and then he'll work himself into a corner. I know that pressure to sack ratio is something that people point out a lot. And to be fair, Drake Maye is pretty high on that list too. So,
Mm-hmm.
you want to give credit where it's due and take credit where it's due. But with Jayden Daniels, it is a concern. And I think the reason that I'm more optimistic with Drake Maye is that Maye, while he does take some bad sacks sometimes and while the decision making can improve on a situational basis, he has a better framework of flourishing off platform with that arm talent, that arm elasticity, and that willingness and that ability to torque his hips on the move, right? Whereas with Jayden Daniels, I don't always see that. And sometimes he can work himself into a corner. So it is something that's concerning. That said, he can process opportunities early in reps, right? He can go through progressions. So you'd like to see that. But as an older QB, it is something you would like him to get sooner rather than later at the NFL level.
I got you. And my biggest concern with Drake Maye, I just need you to let me know if I'm stupid or not, Ian. My
You're not.
biggest
You're not.
concern with Drake Maye is how many balls he threw into the ground, and it's not like all quarterbacks do it, right? But my big question was, is he doing that on purpose? Because like there's a defender on his back, he doesn't want it possibly picked. Because when you have a crosser, you'll put the ball low, so that way your
Yeah.
guy only has a chance to catch it. But in these sort of situations, it's reminiscent of McNabb here as an older, where he was throwing hitches into the dirt 10 yards out, and you get that with Drake Maye. Do you think that that's like a concern for teams at all? Is that more so of something of mechanics and that can be fixed?
It's definitely something to take into account. You can be concerned about it for sure. I think it is more of a mechanical issue, and in my opinion, usually it does stem from, like we talked about, that base width, right?
Okay.
The inconsistent lower body mechanics. Because if you are redirecting in the pocket, if you're adjusting your spatial relationship to pressure, which he can do that for sure, but sometimes he'll be sliding away from pressure, and his base will be a little too narrow on release. So what does that do? It can tug your shoulder down as you're releasing, and that's where the ball comes to the ground too.
Okay.
And the flip side is possible too. Sometimes he tugs it too high, and then you miss over the top too.
Right.
So I think just in general, it's the inconsistent base width which percolates and precipitates to your upper body mechanics. Everything is rooted in your lower body, your footwork, right? So you got to be balanced, you got to be level. And if you're not, it's going to create instability. It's not always low misses, sometimes it's high misses, but it's instability, which at the end of the day prevents you from operating efficiently. So I think it's mainly a mechanical issue. I think it's something that can be harped on, but also with his free-flowing nature off script, sometimes there can be increased discipline there too. So I think it's a young QB thing that you want to work on, and it is concerning because pressure at the NFL level could exacerbate that issue, right?
Yep.
So you want to do your best to support him and hope that you can incubate that out of him. But to your point, yes, it does invoke a little bit of uncertainty in his evaluation.
My bad, Hall.
No. So it looks like we had a cornerback come visit us throughout, I think it was either last week or this week. Western cornerback Rod Gaddison. And he kind of fits the mold of that Dan Quinn, kind of that tall, long cornerback. Do you have any insight on a player like him?
Man, I'll be honest, I don't. I don't. I feel bad because I try. I'm still diving in on the FCS guys, but I'll get to him for sure. I finalized my top 300 this past week, and I'm still trying to fill out the back end with the FCS guys. So I'll get my eyes on him for sure. I'll have feedback for you by next week, but I haven't gotten to him yet.
Cool.
Just give me a heads up next time so I can let Ian know so he can make sure to get on top of that for you. But next couple of questions I have for you, Ian. Latest risers in your opinion. I know a lot has transpired, but a lot of rumors get circulated. So of the rumor mill at this point, who is a name that but probably about a month ago has really surged?
I'm trying to think.
It doesn't have to be a first round considered one. Just somebody who made a big leap.
I would say a few guys that, and again, on the media side, it's not always rising. More so it is, us fully understanding the NFL perspective as well. So a few guys that have been rising on my board, I think, two guys, defensive backs. Max Melton from Rutgers is a guy who was a day 2 guy for a big part of the cycle, and now we're seeing him as a fringe first round guy for sure. And
Wow.
he's graded there for me. He's a CB5. He's in my top 50 for sure. I think he's 46 or 47 overall, but he's a good player for sure. I think round 1 would be a little rich, but I can see it because again, he has slot boundary versatility. He's 5'11", but he's got 32-inch arms, so he can get inside your frame. He's very fluid. He's got vertical speed and burst too, and he's got ball skills. So I think in the mentality as well. Every time you hear him talk, laser focused, very, very passionate player. I think he's going to be a really good pro for sure. So Max Melton, Mike Sanderstill from Michigan, Andrew Phillips from Kentucky, a few slot guys who are moving up the board. I think Mekhi Wingo from LSU is moving up again. He tested very well. I think he fits the 3-tech disruptor mold on day 2. And then one more, Penn State's Hunter Norzad as a center. Isn't a guy that's gotten a ton of hype, but
Wow.
he graded out as a fringe top 100 guy for me. So I think if you need a center, I know Washington doesn't, but if you did need a center, he'd be a top option for you. So I think he's got the football IQ, not the best athlete, but good anchor strength, good versatility in the run game, good run game IQ. He's definitely one. I'm trying to think of one that fits the position of need for Washington. Brandon Coleman from TCU might be another one. I've got him as a top 100 player. He's got tackle guard versatility, but he's got explosiveness, torquing capacity in the run game. I think he can be a starter at either spot as maximum. So he's another one that could go top 100.
My man, Ian, last question I have for you. Just in a general sense, like just based on positions and how the depth is there, what are your biggest concerns heading into the draft?
Biggest concerns heading into the draft.
Are there some positions that you're looking as big gambles?
Big gambles. I think tight end past the first few would be a big one. I really like Brock Bowers. I really like Ben Sinnott from Kansas State. And I do like Jared Wiley. But I think once you get past Bowers and Sinnott, there's a lot of uncertainty there. Jatavian Sanders profiles more as a big slot for me, who's not a great blocker, not a great route runner either. Jared Wiley does need to improve his play strength a little bit, although I like him a lot. I think he's a good move tight end. He's great in up the seam in the red zone, and he's got good route running flexibility. But then Theo Johnson from Penn State, I know he's been a popular one because of his testing, but his route tree is really limited. He's not very flexible as a route runner. His hand technique can be inconsistent. I see him more as an inline tight end 2 or tight end 3,
like a Logan
rotational
Thomas
basis. Yeah, like even then, like I don't see the receiving upside. I think he's probably limited to a seam threat or a rack threat on design touches. So it definitely falls off after that. And the linebacker class too, I would say, is another one that the depth is a little shaky.
Yeah, I was trying to look up his name really quick, but the Iowa tight end that a lot of people were high on. I think yeah. What's the wrap on him? Do you think he's going to be a guy that goes into the middle rounds? Like, where does he fall as far as like your tight end rankings?
Yeah, so he's actually over Theo Johnson for me. I think he's my tight end 5, I want to say. So he did crack my top 5. I like him a lot. If the medicals weren't a part of it, which they are, unfortunately, but if he clears the medical check for teams, I think he can be a solid starter. His Iowa tape before he got injured was really promising. I think he has the route tree. He can do in breakers with that sharp angle freedom. He's a very strong player, around 6'4", 250 again. So he's got that play strength, that rack ability as well, going back to his days at Michigan. And he's a solid blocker too. You can use him in line, in the slot, out in open space. I think the versatility and the utility with him is really appealing, more so than Theo Johnson for me. As much as I like Theo Johnson in that confined role, Eric All is a complete player. I think he goes middle rounds. I think he probably goes early day 3 if I had to guess because of the injuries, but in that range, he can really exceed that value with his profile.
My man. Thank you enough, Ian. Week before the draft, before your vacation hits. I hope you enjoy it, sir. I'm sure you're going to be very busy for the next week, getting everybody ready and up to date. And with your educated opinion, you really do help everybody. Ian, before we get out of here, just like to plug your social media handle before you get out of here, just in case anybody watching hasn't followed you yet, sir, and would like to.
Yeah, for sure. You can follow me at IC_draft on X, formerly Twitter. Any draft questions you have, feel free to hit me up. I'll try to be responsive when I can, for sure.
My man. Ian, have a good night, brother. Enjoy the weekend. Try to enjoy it as much as you possibly can, brother. Have a good one.
Thank you, Kyle. I appreciate it.
All right, brother. All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man, Mr. Ian Cummings. Always appreciate Ian's time, man. He really is the man, dude.
Yeah, and like I said, just knowledgeable about almost every single draft prospect coming out. So, in the FBS side,
Dude. Well, why are you going to throw jokes, man?
I mean, honestly, I didn't even know Western Carolina was like an FCS school. I just thought it was like one of those like way lower ranked down like FBS schools. Like,
It's cool. It's cool. Usually, if I have a question like that about somebody in particular, I usually ask him beforehand just because, I don't want him walking into a buzzsaw and feeling like he's getting screwed over a little bit. You know what I mean? But, guys, we have our 7-round mock draft coming up. We have a special guest coming in to make the second overall pick for us. Then Hall and I are going to break down the rest of the 7-round mock draft, so please let us know how we do. But we'll also be answering fan questions during that time. And speaking of, sir, I want to ask you this question from the Colonel who sent me this today. Despite all the talk of the Commanders moving back up into the first round and taking offensive tackle, there are conflicting rumors from the pundits of late. They're still saying we're going to move back up into the first round, but for a defensive end, not a tackle. What are your thoughts?
yeah, I mean, it's lying season still. We're still 8 days out, 8 days away from the end of lying season. But I think that if they're going to trade back up into the first round, it's definitely going to be for that tackle, so they can get that 5th-year option, that 5th year of control before you have to make that decision on, or before that big contract hits. Like obviously, if he becomes that cornerstone left tackle.
Right.
But yeah, I think that DN is definitely a need. While they did like fill it through free agency with like multiple guys, we don't really have that guy as of yet. We could be proven wrong. That can go out and probably get you 10 plus sacks and like really disrupt the game like that. But
There's a read.
I think that,
Nothing to keep going.
But yeah, no, I do think that if they do trade back up, it would be for a left tackle. But I wouldn't be surprised if defensive end is in one of the top 40, one of those top 40 picks that we have.
I do think it's funny, Colonel, because like everyone, like I said this on Twitter, like last week. Everyone says everything, but nobody knows anything. And that's the funny thing. Everyone is running around with these theories of all these different hypotheticals that could look. I was a part of it. I was reading the Bears just saying that they weren't trading Caleb Williams. I didn't care who heard it, and I'll be own up to it. But I'm just saying that, this is like it's a very funny time period for the media in particular, not just local or national or anything like. They're just like even us considered, because nobody really knows. So you can actually say whatever the heck you want right now. And after the draft, everyone's so excited about what you got, you can just continue talking about that. Nobody really cares what you said beforehand. So right now is the time where they're sweeping all the trash under the rug and just saying whatever they want to get a lot of reaction. And that's what I think is ultimately what's happening here, is that's the reason why they changed it to defensive end, because that's what everyone wants, is to trade it for a tackle. All right, let's piss everyone off. Send it out with a defensive end as a trade up now. And let's see how many people respond like, you idiots, you don't know what you're doing. It happens every time, dude. It happens every time. Every time. Now, the next question we have, thank you, Colonel. This one's in the Discord from Yam Sensei. What are the betting odds on Peters trading back on draft night and or making a surprise pick that really no one has thought about? Why or why not?
I'd say it's plus 1,000 plus. I'd say it's plus 3,800 right now, just because if you just listen to what the but the insiders, the Albert Breers, the Adam Schefters, guys like that have been saying they've been saying that yes, they've been fielding calls for the pick, but they're pretty much locked in at number 2. They're gonna draft the guy that they want to get at number 2. Now, obviously, you're gonna do your due diligence, which is why they bring in guys like Michael Penix, JJ McCarthy, guys like that. But just in case someone wants to really like offer you like a crazy haul of picks, and it's like an offer you can't refuse type of deal. So I do think that I'd say it's like plus 3,800, something crazy, some crazy odds like that, where they're going to make a surprise pick or trade back from number 2.
Yeah, putting the odds on Peters trading back, honestly, like I'm at like 50.5 that they're taking a quarterback at 2. I think it's 49.5 of them trading back. And I'm just holding that out there because honestly, bro, we have no idea what they want to do. And I'm
Yeah.
being perfectly honest with you because we don't know what Adam Peters learned from the 49ers. We don't know what Dan Quinn, these other guys are looking at this football team. We don't know if they're looking at it saying, we have a massive issue and we need production and plenty of it. We need to trade back, but we cannot be public about that. We have to let it know that we want a quarterback so we can. That possibility is obviously out there. Anybody says it's not doesn't truly freaking know, in my personal opinion. So what I think is happening is if it's something that's going to knock their shoes off, then obviously, of course. But the odds are most likely they're staying at 2 and they're going with their bets there. And what are the pick that making a surprise pick? I think they're high. I mean, what is a surprise pick? Because at this point, we have no idea what Adam Peters and company like to do, and that's
I
why
feel like
this draft cycle is so awesome and fun to be
I
a
feel
part
like a
of.
surprise pick would be anybody outside of Jayden Daniels or like Drake Maye. That would be like a surprise pick more than likely.
You think? And I think that's where like Michael Penix comes into play. To your point. And now we
Yeah.
are joined by our next guest, Mr. Freddie Ham. As soon as his picture shows up here, whenever he does. Waiting for him to make this selection here for our mock draft, our first one of 7 rounds. But it's a great question, Yam. Now the next question, Hall. This one from Big Tony Shivers. Do you think Mitchell Tinsley will make the final roster?
That's a good question. Mm-hmm. I would say it might be close. If he can contribute on special teams, then that would be like the deciding factor to maybe push him over the edge of making the 53. But I say it would depend on where they take a receiver at in the draft. Like if it's high, like round three ish, maybe somewhere around there. I would say that maybe they'd be battling it out between like him, Diami, and maybe Tinsley for that wide receiver 3-ish spot. But I do think that if he, like I said, if he can contribute on special teams
Yep.
and like I said, contribute on special teams, I think that'll push him over the edge and make the 53. But I mean, who knows? Maybe he comes out in training camp and really shows out and really shows that he's been putting in the work and can be a contributor for this team. But I just think, like I said, special teams is where he can get in at, but we'll see.
Think you need talent, and obviously, I think special teams is vital. A lot of people will sit out there and laugh and say, you need playmakers. You need playmakers. You don't need special teamers. And like honestly, like I get it, but in all reality, you need special teamers, and you need motivated special teamers. Good role models being your captains as your special teamers, i.e., Jeremy Reeves being brought back here. So, in my personal opinion, it's very important. I think Tinsley, that's probably if he's going to put all of his stock into working for something, it's that special team aspect. Be the best damn gunner on this football team that nobody could take away from you because it's always an asset, and that's a job that it's almost it's one of those jobs like doing dishes. It's a job that nobody wants to do, but everyone has to do it. Like somebody has to do it. You always need one. Now this actually isn't a question, but this one from Aled in the UK. Appreciate you, Aled. He said, no question, but I wanted to say that April 17th, 2023 was the first episode of the pod that I listened to and haven't missed one since. Keep up the great work all. Thank you, Aled. You're a frickin' champion, bro.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate
And now
the
we
good
are
words,
joined
kind words.
by old friend, good friend of this podcast, Mr. Freddie Ham. How are you doing, brother? You ready to pick this draft pick for us?
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I was born ready. Sorry
Nice.
about the technical issues. I'm sorry I'm joining y'all late. What's up, Paul?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm hanging in all right, man.
I like that
Nice.
hat.
I'm ready for next Thursday to come and for all of this draft talk to just be over with.
I think everybody is.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
the weird thing for me is how quickly the pick is going to be, because like in years past, we're like waiting for the 19th pick, waiting forever. Like we're the second overall pick, and I'm sure it's still going to feel like forever. Because like I made a joke last year. Well, what like I was like the first overall pick, they took the entire time and then some. Like you've had months to do this.
Yeah.
Just pick the damn selection, man. What is going on here? But
I
Freddie,
think part of that's done on purpose. I think the NFL specifically does that just to
of
drag
course
it
it will.
out.
Oh, of
You
course.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? But hey, well, listen, next year we're going to be waiting forever because we're going to have the 32nd pick, right?
Yeah, well,
There
that
you go.
depends on who you select here at number 2 in our first mock draft, Freddie. So let's kick the tires on this thing. We got it all chimed up and ready to go. Right. Obviously, the Bears took Caleb Williams. So your highest available right now per PFN is Drake Maye, wide receiver Marvin Harrison, Jayden Daniels is there, Joe Alt. So Freddie, with the second overall pick in the 2024 draft, who are the Washington Commanders selecting?
Okay, yeah, you didn't have to tell me about anyone else immediately being on the board because my big board, there's only one person and it's at the very, very top. So with the second pick in the 2024 NFL draft, the Washington Commanders select Jayden Daniels, quarterback, LSU.
All right, tell me why.
Big shocker, right?
Very big shock.
Why?
Well, tell me why, Fred.
Why? Because I'm the GM and I get to pick whoever the fuck I want.
Go, I like that one. No, but what
No,
about
and that's
Jayden
really
do you
what it's gonna be. Okay, so what do I like about Jayden Daniels? Everything that all the national media and all the local media and all of the Jayden Daniels hive on social media likes about Jayden. I like his athleticism. I like his touch on the deep ball. I think he's a good decision maker. I think he processes quickly. I like the growth that I've seen from his time, prior to LSU and then after he transferred, all the growth that's been there. I really like everything that I've seen from him in interviews. He seems like a team guy. I like that he's pretty humble. He said something that really struck me in his combine interview. He said that he doesn't want to feel like he's not too smart to learn or something of that nature, but basically saying that he doesn't know everything, he's not perfect, that he's constantly got to keep working on his game. I don't like the notion that because it's this whole Drake Maye Jayden Daniels thing, right? Right. So unless you've been
It's right. Yeah.
sitting under a rock, it's the Drake Maye Jayden Daniels thing, and it's
what is this thing you're talking about?
It's the two warring sides, right? The thing that I like about Jayden Daniels, because I'm sure that this would be the next question. Why do I take him over? Yeah, that's my son back there. Why do I take him over Drake Maye or even JJ McCarthy? And the reason why I take him is because he is the most dynamic, most electrifying player in college football, save for maybe Caleb Williams. But I actually think that Jayden Daniels plays better in the system than Caleb Williams does. I think Caleb Williams has big potential. I mean, but all the top quarterbacks picked have big potentials to be a bust. But I am the least scared of Jayden Daniels becoming a bust out of all of the quarterback prospects. And with the Drake Maye thing, everyone talks about, he's got this higher ceiling. Maybe Jayden Daniels has a higher floor, but Drake Maye has a higher ceiling. And I always subscribe to this notion, and that is that potential will get you fired. Potential will get you fired. Drake Maye, I think so much of it is about what he can be, what he has the potential to be, because the guy's gifted. He's got athleticism. He has a cannon for an arm. He has a better arm probably than Jayden Daniels has. But my issue is all the things that you have to clean up with Drake Maye's game. And you're hoping that he gets there. You have to project more with him than you have to with Jayden Daniels. And I just think, just make I don't want to say safe pick because, I mean, you're taking a chance on any of these quarterbacks, but I really, truly believe that Jayden Daniels has the most potential to work out and be what we expect him to be, even more so than Caleb Williams, definitely more so than Drake Maye. I think he's dynamic. And something else too, I don't like how we sort of put all these quarterbacks into a box like, oh, Jayden Daniels, we have to give him the Lamar Jackson comp. And Drake Maye, oh, we have to give him the Justin Herbert comp. Oh, I wonder why. But even that aside, I feel like, look at this. Look at the Super Bowl's victories of the past few years and who has won those games. If you want to compare Drake Maye to Josh Allen or Justin Herbert, that's all well and good. Who won the AFC championship games? Which quarterbacks played in those championship games? It wasn't Justin Herbert. It wasn't Josh Allen. It was Patrick Mahomes. It was Lamar Jackson playing in the AFC championship game. Okay. Brock Purdy was in the Super Bowl, right? They lost. They lost. Yeah. And that's just where I'm at with all that. I think that you have to have a dynamic playmaking quarterback. I love that Jayden Daniels is a dual threat. I kind of scoff at the idea that he's just going to be obliterated in the NFL. To me, take the quarterback. Give me the quarterback who needs to work on protecting himself, not the quarterback who needs to work on his mechanics, on his footwork, on all of these other things that all of these quarterbacks are going to need to work on, specifically Drake Maye. I don't think that Drake Maye, that you can fix everything. I feel like with Jayden Daniels, okay, there's less to fix, which is why I get tired of Drake Maye has a higher ceiling. And again, it goes back to what will potential give you? Potential will get you fired. If Drake Maye doesn't get there, that's fine. You're talking about Jayden Daniels doesn't have a higher ceiling. Well, if he just reaches his quote unquote higher floor, we're going to be just fine. And I think you can win a championship with Jayden Daniels. I think you can be much more competitive right away. And I just feel better with him being the franchise guy. And I also think, and this is a small thing, but I really think like he is the quarterback for this town. He's a DC quarterback. I feel like he fits in DC better than any of the other quarterback prospects. And I'll throw in one last little thing, and this is my hot take for you. I would take J.J. McCarthy before I would take Drake Maye. I would even go as far to say, and you can drag me all over the place, I might take Michael Penix before I take Drake Maye. But that's just
crazy.
Me.
That's not crazy at all, dude. I really
and I'm
like
not hating on Drake Maye. I'm not. It's not I don't feel like you have to hate one to like the other. But with Drake Maye, I just kind of like him. I love Jayden Daniels, and I like J.J. McCarthy a little bit more.
Yeah, with Jayden, I really am interested if he is coming here about that software that LSU used in order to help him get to the 40 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Obviously, would be crucial. Freddie, I can't thank you enough for coming on here and being able to give us the second overall pick and your real thoughts on it and being able to explain it for us. I can't thank you enough, man.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. I love you guys so much. I really appreciate you having me on. Been a long time fan. We've been at this game for a long time. You and me, Kyle, we have a long history of doing this stuff. It feels really good to be able to jump back in and talk a little bit on a podcast because I sure do miss doing it. But I enjoy being the troll on Twitter. It's a lot of fun, or on X, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, big ups to you guys for having me on, and happy to come on anytime.
I appreciate you, Freddie. You know I'll be hitting you up more and more now that you're interested, man. Go and enjoy the night. Tell everybody I said hello. Enjoy your weekend, brother. All right, man.
See you, buddy.
All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man, Mr. Freddie Ham. Always appreciate Freddie being able to come on here. My man Fred went to draft night with him a couple years ago. But now let's get into this, finish up this mock draft, brother. And so let's go to the board. And the board is showing something different. It's showing that we have 2 trade offers at 36 Hall. The Pittsburgh Steelers offered 51 and 84 for 36, or the Bills offered pick 60, a second rounder, and a 2025 third rounder, both next year picks. We give away 36 and 222. Do you want to take any of these?
What was that Steelers trade again?
Pick 51 and 84. So we'd be moving back about 15 spots.
For which one of those?
For 84, basically, we'd be getting.
No, I'm saying, what is Washington giving up?
36.
Nah, keep 36 for right now.
Okay. All right, now, at 36, we got Cooper DeWan, we got Graham Barton, Bo Nix, Jordan Morgan, Darius Robinson, TJ Tampa. What are you feeling here?
Darius Robinson or Jordan Morgan are the 2 of the names that stuck out to me.
Zach Frazier, Adiza Isaac, Troy Franklin, Max Melton.
I'm going to go.
Safety is considered a need here, bud.
I know it is, but that tackle position is a little bit more prominent on the list of needs that we have. And a guy like Jordan Morgan that's been there, came in from one of the 30 visits. Obviously, We like him enough. We're going to take him at 36. We think he can be that one of the cornerstone guys on either end of our line.
You're going Jordan Morgan? This what you want to do here? All right.
I mean, we can talk through it.
No.
I agree.
I agree with you. With you. Let's go with Jordan Morgan now. Now we're moving to pick 40. Barton is off. Troy Franklin is off. We've now been offered pick 43 in a 7th rounder. Atlanta could kick rock. Screw you. The Ravens offered 62, 93 in a 2nd rounder next year for 40 and 139. I say no on that.
No.
All right, agree with you. Now let's move to the number 40 pick. So our needs: quarterback, tackle, cornerback, edge, and safety. Currently, we have Bo Nix, Christian Haynes, Darius Robinson, TJ Tampa, Trey Benson, the running back from Florida State, Idisa Isaac, same as before, same cast of characters I just said. Cooper Beebe.
I like Tampa there, honestly.
Me too. Let's do it. I like the way you think. You made it easy on me. So far, guys, we have selected Jayden Daniels at number 2, thanks to Freddie. We have Jordan Morgan at 36, and then TJ Tampa at 40. Big reason here, we need the tackle, and a lot of people say possibly guard switching for Jordan Morgan, and I understand that. But the one argument I'd put in here is the one guy in Roger Rosengarten. Him being a right tackle at Washington, right? Everyone's going to say he was a right tackle. But he was also the blind side for Penix, right? Who's left-handed. Is there a chance that he could actually be playing that left tackle at right tackle and he'd have the ability to move over? And that's where I'm kind of looking at this sort of thing, saying maybe we're looking at it wrong. And that's where we could be saying, oh, Jordan Morgan could actually play right tackle because he is so versatile. So sitting here at 67, Hall, we have Jonathan Brooks, Leonard Taylor, the defensive tackle, Cedric Gray at linebacker, Brandon Fisk, defensive tackle, Roman Wilson at wide receiver, Junior Colson at linebacker. What are you feeling?
Ooh,
Ricky Purcell, Marshawn Leland.
I love me some Ricky Purcell. I love Colson too. I love me some Roman Wilson too. Both Michigan guys.
You want to go with your boy here? What
Which
do you want to do, man? Devontae Walker.
Who do you like? Who do you like here? Let me see who you like here.
Well, for me personally, I think there's a lot of guys here like Cedric Gray, linebacker from North Carolina. But I also could say that James Williams later on is somebody you could really look at in this position. So for right now, I'm looking at it saying our team needs a quarterback, tackle, corner, edge, and safety. So far, we have taken off the top 3. So here we can kind of move around a little bit. Do you want to go with Bo Braid? But we've heard from guys like Ryan Fowler where they're like, I'm not really all about Bo Braid, so to speak, right? This is the scenario at 67. I saw that name and I really like it. But I think this is where you should go with Marshawn Leland, the edge rusher from Western Michigan. I know Roman Wilson.
All right, I like that.
I know Roman Wilson is there. I know Ricky Purcell is there. But my whole thing is we need height for me personally.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, no, because I do like Ricky Purcell and I do like Roman Wilson, but if we're going to draft the receiver, I want it to be like that explosive type of like deep threat, like take it to the house from anywhere type player, which we have Terry, who obviously can run the intermediate stuff and he can run the deep stuff, but you know what I'm saying? His stuff is more like the intermediate and like the close to the line of scrimmage type stuff. We got Dotson to run the crosshairs, the intermediate stuff, or if he's shown his rookie year, he can run the deep stuff. So I just want that mix of both of those guys with a little bit more speed, and that can to kind of take that top off, because like we talked about before with Cliff Kingsbury's defense, they like to go side to side, and then once you start getting up on that side to side, like close to the line of scrimmage stuff, that's when they go over the top and hit that vertical game on you. So I do want a receiver, but I want that explosive type receiver, not that kind of shifty, twitchy type of guy.
We're here at pick 78, which is in the second pick in the 3rd round. So Hall, we're sitting here at 78. Jonathan Brooks, Cedric Gray, Roman Wilson, Junior Colson, Christian Mahogany, Jalen McMillan from Washington, Devontae Walker from North Carolina. We got Javon Bullard, safety from Georgia, Trevin Wallace, the linebacker from Kentucky, Jatavion Sanders, your boy. A lot of good names here. Kalen Bullock, the safety from USC, Johnny Wilson, the wide receiver from Florida State.
I like. I do like Colson. It's pretty good value there.
I don't like Colson.
Who was the wide receiver? Not Wilson. Who was the other guy you
Roman
said that was there?
Wilson, Jalen McMillan, the wide receiver from
McMillan. I do
Washington.
like. Yeah, I like McMillan too.
Devontae Walker, the wide
Might
receiver
be
from North Carolina.
a little bit too high for McMillan though. Whatever our other needs that we have still on the board.
Right now, it's only safety is the last remaining, but you could still go with tackle here. And we lost out. This is where I wanted to go with Roger Rosengarten, and I'm pretty sure he
Right.
got scooped up right before I did this. So we're gonna have to go with my boy at pick 100. I'm gonna have to make that. So you make this decision. What are we going with here? I'm gonna make 100.
Um,
Come
I
on,
guess we're
man,
going.
give me
I like
some.
Roman Wilson. Roman Wilson. I go with Roman Wilson.
Roman Wilson. All right, we're going with Roman Wilson, baby. Now going to pick 100, where I'm gonna make the selection here. I'm gonna pull out what I need to do here and make this selection for you guys, because I really appreciate you guys. I like you guys a lot, and we need to win football games, okay? And that's all I'm concerned about. So I'm just waiting for the pick 100 to come up, and we're selecting right tackle Christian Jones from Texas. I know there's a lot of talk about him being being selected here at 181. From everything that we've heard, he won't be there when this selection comes up. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to select that right tackle and be good to go. Depending on how it goes, I would have liked to get Roger Rosengarten here, but my guy in Christian Jones is going to take care of us. Trust me, boys. Don't worry about it. Now we're moving on to the next pick in our draft, which is 139, which is going to take a little bit to get there. But Hall, so far we have Jayden Daniels, Jordan Morgan, TJ Tampa, Marshawn Nealand, and we also have now I can't pull it up. But we also have Roman Wilson, the wide receiver, and Christian Jones. So quarterback, tackle, corner, edge, wide receiver, and a tackle again.
Yep.
So I think we've done so far being able to supply our needs and what we kind of need here at this point. And I'm liking what we've done. Is there any questions, or what are you thinking?
No, I like where we're at. We got an edge rusher that has been highly coveted, highly talked about through draft circles and whatnot. And Nealand, we got the receiver, who, even though he's not the most explosive guy, but he's a sure-handed guy that can run the route tree pretty well.
All right,
Uh,
hold on. But
and then-
now we're at our pick 139. And safety is our biggest need left, but here we got McKinley Jackson, defensive tackle, running back Dylan Loeb, Jalen Wright, the running back from Tennessee, Mason McCormick, the guard, Cam Hart, the corner from Notre Dame, Marshawn Lloyd, the running back from USC.
I like Cam Hart right here, honestly.
I know we took TJ Tampa already, but we kind of
You never have too many corners.
losing out on Kendall. That is a good decision to do here, to throwing spaghetti at the wall, so to speak. Now we're moving to our next selection. Our next selection is 222, last in the draft. I like this one, man. I like what we're doing here. And Javon Baker being there is another one that you could always
I
think
do
about.
I like Javon Baker too.
Oh no, so this is a different selection. I can't see it because it won't let me scroll down. But do you want to go with Javon Baker here? Because Marshawn Lloyd is there, other guys, but I see Javon Lloyd and I want to take him.
Where,
Javon
222?
Baker. Yeah. No, this isn't 222. It's before that. Just don't listen.
Oh. Yeah.
All right, Javon Baker. And now we're going
He's
to
the Central Florida wide receiver, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And now we're running up to the end of the draft. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in for this one. If you made it this far, you're freaking awesome, because it has been fun and an exciting episode. Happy birthday to Fred Smoot. We saw, I just posted today the interview we had with him at draft night, and dude, it was so much fun. Just thinking back on it.
That was a lot of fun, man. I wish they did that more often, but circumstances.
And I know a lot of people are looking at this saying, why aren't you going linebacker or tight end? You've gone doubled up at tackle and at wide receiver. I get it, but long-term projection, you need firepower here, man. And I know they've added a lot of linebackers already, and they could always add more, but just looking at it just based on where we are, it's like you're going best player available. In my personal opinion, that's how I'm looking at this. If we're going for team needs, it's going to have a different way of going about it.
Right. And I mean, we could have probably swapped out Cam Hart for maybe like a tight end at that point. Had to look to see who was still left on the board, but there's a lot of guys that go undrafted. There's a lot of guys that get that. I mean, honestly, there's still the guys that the juice for the June 1st cuts. There's guys that are going to get cut during training camp. Maybe a guy shakes loose that they really like. Maybe like the Charles Leno situation where,
Right.
oh, that's ends up being a steal for us and a guy that is a starter and contributor for multiple years to come. So I know we need a young tight end that's in the pipeline to come up, but again, this is just a mock draft. They're probably going to draft a tight end at some point. So
Yeah, I'm with you. Now, I'm going to pick for our last pick in the draft. I'm just going to go ahead and pick Rasheen Ali, the running back from Marshall. I think he's an explosive athlete, and adding him into this offense, just adding in depth, you're looking at a guy that's be really explosive for you and do you some good. So, good mock draft. We've never done this before. If you guys would like to get on with this one in the future or like to be able to make a pick in one of these, let us know, man. We'd love to come on here and be able to meet you.
only got one more left.
Right.
One more mock draft left.
Only one more,
before
sir.
it's game time.
All right, everybody. Well, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. Thank you so much to everybody who tuned in. If you made it this far, you're a frickin' champion. Just going through the last of this draft, we made our last selection here. You're obviously seeing it. The one selection you cannot see is Cam Hart, and you also cannot see, or no, you can see Cam Hart. My bad. It's just you cannot see Rasheen Ali in the 7th round. Any last-minute thoughts? Anything that come to mind that you want to talk about?
No, just this draft cannot get here soon enough so we can stop talking about the quarterback and who he's going to be. I'm just excited. 8 days until we know who our quarterback's going to be. I just wanted to get here.
Me too, man. It's taking too long. Usually is, and usually this time period is like always very stressful. From my personal opinion, just because like I enjoy watching. No homo. Like I like to watch everybody and. Just based on everything that you hear and the fluffing and all that, and because it makes you question what you're seeing and what you believe. But at the end of the day, you just fall in the draft for that. And Ron Rivera didn't help me out in that regard and being able to give me any confidence. Glad you shot that out of the earth. But we'll see how this comes out on Thursday. I'm residing in the fact that we have no idea what they want. They could want Rattler. For as far as I know, that's their best quarterback on the board. I have no idea. So
Come
with
on,
that,
man, you're pulling a Daniel Kelly right now.
right? Well, all I'm saying is that reality, that possibility is out there, and so we have to be open to it, right? And so the way I'm looking at this is, I just know that we're going to be better after April 25th. My birthday being the April 27th. After that day, I know that we're going to be a better football team, and I'm excited for that day. And so, yes, am I excited for it to come up? Of course. Am I going to cry about who's selected, who's not? No. I just know that we're going to be better because we got some badasses running the team. Tell you what, boy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everybody. That's going to wrap us up for this episode. I'm Kyle.
I'm Hall.
And we'll see you guys again on Sunday, I believe. We'll see you then, everybody. All right, Washington football. Woo!
Peace.
What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.